A very good morning to all the students of class 11th political science and welcome back to the online classes here. Students, as you know well, we were already doing chapter number 4, that is executive, and in the last video I had started the first part of this chapter and I had given you all the important part of the introduction, which is very much important in relation to the concept of executive. So from the very word executive you can make out to execute something. So this particular organ of the government, its basic purpose and the principle and the primary duty is to execute plans, laws and provisions made by the legislature for the welfare and development of the state. So before today I will start a topic that is parliamentary executive in India. Today we will completely talk about executive but in relation to only India. As you know, India is a parliamentary executive, as we have opted and we have adopted a parliamentary system, that is parliamentary form of government. In that we have already discussed in the previous video also what are the basic and important characteristics and elements of the parliamentary system or the parliamentary executive. So today we were yesterday in the last video we were talking generally about what do we understand by parliamentary executive or presidential or semi-presidential executive system. But today particularly we will talk in relation to India. As we know very well, India is a parliamentary executive. So before I start this particular topic, I would like to revise few important points which would be relevant with your this particular topic. Here it is. I hope you remember most of the points, as I have put all my efforts to make good notes for you so that it becomes easy for you to understand this very important concept. Although it is very interesting, but it is up to you how you study it, how you try and understand it. So basically, I told you there are three important organs of any government, if I'm talking about around the world: executive, legislature, and judiciary. So in this chapter, we were talking about executive. So what is the work of the executive? I told you through two definitions: a body of person that looks after implementation of rules and regulations into actual practice. Okay, you know this very well. I'm not going to explain it here again. Then I told you the basic structure of executive. If we are talking about any executive, any country, whether it is a parliamentary form of executive, whether it is semi-presidential or presidential, but they will have this format or they will be following this structure in which there is a political executive and a permanent executive. Political executive, I told you the important work and position of the political executive, which is also called temporary executive, and reason also I told you why they are called temporary executives. And under this they are the bureaucrats or the officers. They are skilled and well trained in their particular fields. They are the permanent executives who help political executive to draft and frame and execute the laws and policies framed for the welfare of the state. So this was the structure of the executive, which is very common and general to all the executives around the world. Then moving forward with this topic of executive, I summed up that what do we understand by executive. I give you the definitions. I told you that leaders are the political executive and civil servant officers are the permanent executives. Then the important topic was type of executives around the world. Globally, if we say, there are three type of executive, or we can also say there are three type of governments, because this executive is the important organ related to government. So there is a parliamentary form of government, there is a semi presidential form of government, and there is a presidential form of government. We had taken example from each of them: India and Canada here. I had told you about France and Sri Lanka here, and USA. We had taken the example of presidential, and I have given you all the basic and important characteristics of all the three forms of executives here. But today we are discussing parliamentary form of executive or government in relation to India. Okay, in this I told you, I'm reminding you again, or I'm only reminding you again this particular characteristics of parliamentary, as it is related to India, and we will be doing this topic today. So what do we mean by parliamentary form of government or executive? In this, the head of the government is usually known as PM, head of the government. But head of the state, as I told you, the head of the state is president. In India it's president, because we have a parliamentary republic. We do not follow monarchy system. So in our country the head of the state will be president. Okay, so these are some and Prime Minister is also accountable to the legislature. Legislature are the people, the elected representatives who act on behalf of all the citizens who have voted them and elected them. So this Council of Ministers and Prime Minister is accountable to legislature. So this is the format of parliamentary system. So now I am going to forward. So I hope now you have revised it. What do we understand by parliamentary executive or parliamentary system? So under this is the second part of this chapter. I am starting this topic. In the very first, we will start through the provisional article of the Constitution, Article 74. You have to remember Article number 74 of the provision of the Constitution. It declares that about the functioning and importance of Council of Ministers and whose head is the Prime Minister. So complete provision that in the government there will be a Council of Minister who will be an important element of the executive along with President as the head of the state, and also the head of the Council of Minister will be Prime Minister. This complete structure and process have been written down in the article number 74 of our Constitution. Now the Constitution of India vests the executive powers of the Union firmly in the President. What they have written, if we will go through the Constitution, you will see that Indian Constitution has given all the important executive powers. I hope you know the meaning of executive powers means an organ which executes laws and provisions and policies for the welfare of the state, which are forwarded by the legislature. So these all the powers are formally, we can say, are vested in the union, formally in the president. So president is the supreme power according to the Constitution, to whom the executive powers are given by the Constitution. But what's the reality? Let's see it. Reality is president exercises powers through the Council of Ministers. Okay, we have said that this president exercises or vests the most power of the executive, or formally we can say he is the most powerful head of the state. But it's written here, president exercise powers. He will exercise power, he will make laws, rules, regulations, he will give his decision, but all these decisions and will be pending on the Council of Ministers. That is, the president works and does his work according to the advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. So president, we can say, is a person who is working on the advice of the Council of Ministers, and Prime Minister is the head of this Council of Ministers. So between Council of Ministers and President, Prime Minister is the bridge or the linking part which link Council of Ministers and President, because President works and functions only on the advice of the ministers. That is why here we are using that he's a formal head. Executive is a formal head in the documents, in the Constitution. He is a formal head. He's not having the actual power. Actual power is with the Council of Ministers, and on the advice of Council of Ministers and Prime Minister, President functions. So it's written, the same point is written here also. According to this system, there is a president. According to the system of the Constitution, they are saying who is the formal head. So president is the formal head of the state of India, and the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers which run the government at the national level. But the important part and the important elements which are running the government and the executive organ of the government is Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. But with the advice of them, the Prime Minister, President functions. Same procedure is followed at the state level also. At the state level, the executive comprises the governor. Here the head of the state is the governor, and the chief minister is the head of the government, and Council of Ministers forms the executive. Here also chief minister plays the linking bridge between Council of Ministers and governor. Here governor is the formal head, and real powers are with the chief minister and Council of Ministers. So this is the case of the state, but this is nothing to do here. Just for your information, I have written this point. Now it's written here. President is elected for a period of 5 years. We very well know president is also elected for the tenure or the fixed period of 5 years, but there is no direct election. But the important thing is there is no direct elections for the post of president, as we go and vote for the Lok Sabha elections and we elect our representative, and from those elected representative there are the formation of council of ministers and prime minister. But for the president we do not vote, it is an indirect vote. It is written here, president is elected indirectly. How indirectly? Because on behalf of us, the people we have elected, like MLAs from the state and MPs from the Lok Sabha, they elect the president through a election which is based on the proportional representation system. We will study it. The president is elected indirectly. This means that the president is elected by the elected MLAs and MLAs. Elected MLAs means the MLA member of legislative assemblies which we have elected in our particular states. Those members and member of parliament, we have given direct votes to elect these MLAs and MPs, but they are responsible to elect president of a country. So it is a indirectly president is elected. This election take place in accordance with the principle of, so the when there is an election or the to elect a president of a country, there is a proportional representation, which topic we have already studied in the last chapter. I'm not going to repeat this particular topic. This is a proportional representation. I had given you a detailed explanation of this particular election system with single transferable vote. This also I have explained in the last chapter. We have already explained this in the complete video. President can be removed from the following the procedure for the impeachment. If we have to remove the president, it is not as simple as it looks like, but there is a procedure of impeachment. It requires a special majority, but under this impeachment we need a special majority, and this special majority also we have done in the first or the second chapter. That is why we have to move on with the step by step. You have to see each and every video, you have to read them and learn them, because as we'll go on with the syllabus, these type of terms will come again and again, and it will not be possible for me to explain you all these big terms again and again in the middle of a chapter. So you have to read chapter number 2 properly, and you have to see what do we understand by proportional representation system, or single transferable vote, or a special majority. So this is the way our president is elected, through the voting system of proportional representation. And for impeachment or to remove him, there should be a special majority in both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And the ground for impeachment, why we want to remove a president, the only way is if he is violating the constitution, if he is not following the guidelines or the basic structure of the constitution, he is breaking the rules himself, then only this impeachment can be heard for him. Now again, I have already done this, but I have written it for you so that you can read it again. As we know, president is a formal head. He is not the actual head, as he is dependent on the advice of all the council of ministers and prime minister. So he is the formal head of the government. In this formal sense, the president has wide-ranging executive. Although he is a formal head, he is dependent on the advice of the council of ministers, but still he is having a wide-ranging roles, that is regarding executive roles, legislative role, judicial roles, and emergency. These are the areas of his jurisdiction or functioning, although he is a formal head. In a parliamentary system, those powers are in reality used by the president only on the advice. In a parliamentary system like followed in India, in this the president has these powers: executive power, legislative power, judicial power, and emergency power. On all these elements he can take the decision, but only on the advice of council of ministers, okay, or PM. And PM or council of minister have support of the majority in the Lok Sabha, and they are the real executive. So we can say here prime minister and council of minister, they are the real executive, as they have the maximum power. They are the elected, they have the majority of the elected members in the Lok Sabha. They are accountable and question and answerable to the people, as they have been representative of the people. So they are the real executives, but president is a formal head. Now I hope you have understood this topic. Next topic is discretionary powers of the president. In this, as we have read all this, you must be thinking that prime minister is just a formal head, he has no power. Then why we are having a president in our country? What is the importance of keeping a president who is not able to take his own decision? He has no discriminatory means authority, or you can say power, to act independent. So, do we think, as we are reading about the president and under the parliamentary system, that president is always bound on the advice of the uh, council of ministers and prime minister? So, what are the discriminatory powers of the president? Are there any powers where the authority and powers to act independently, or the president can take any decisions independently? So, there are some. We show you with there are four important powers we have discussed here, and the first one is right to be informed. So what do we understand by the right to be informed? Under this, we are talking in relation to president. What are the discretionary powers of the president? Important matters and deliberations of the council of ministers. So all the important matters, policies, plans, what the government is going to do for the particular society, for the welfare of the society, what are the bills coming up, each and every information is to be given to the president. So he has the right to be informed. The PM is obliged. It is a duty of the PM to furnish all the information that president may call. President asks any sort of information about the working and functioning of the government. It PM is obliged. PM is the one person who is obliged to give all the information asked and required by the president of our country, as he is the guardian of the constitution, who looks after the constitution, that everything is going according to the basic structure of the constitution or not. So it is a duty of the president to ask, and it's his right to be informed about each and every thing going on through in the government. Second discriminatory power of the president is president can ask council of minister to reconsider its decision or advice. Any sort of decision made for the government, for the people, for the society, or related to any rules, regulations, or provisions of the constitution, basically in relation to the constitution, any decision or advice given by the council of ministers and prime minister to for signing of the president, because each and every rule, regulation, laws, bills are passed only when the signing is done by the president is also known as the signing authority. So here president has the authority and he has the power to send the decision and advice which has been given by the council of ministers back to the council of ministers to reconsider. He sends the decision back to the council of minister to reconsider it, because he thinks there is something is at fault which is not according to the basic structure of the constitution, or is not good for the people of the certain society. In that case, he can send the decision or advice back to the council of minister for reconsideration. So this is the power of the president. Although the council of ministers again send the same advice and same decision back to the president, that's the other part of the story, but here he has the power to send that decision or advice back to the council of ministers to reconsider it and make important necessary changes in those particular advices. Now, the next important discriminatory power of the president is veto power, or we also call it pocket veto of the president. So this is related to president. Veto power also, and we also called it pocket veto. So what happens in veto power? With the veto power, president can withhold to or refuse to give assent to the bill other than money bill passed by the parliament. It's one and the same thing like we studied here, but it was related to only decision and advice of the council of ministers. But now here it is about the whole parliament. When there is a change in the rules, regulations, or there is some new provisions or articles coming up for the good of the society, those are passed in the parliament through a fixed procedure of amendments, and those bill are finally, after passing from the Lok Sabha and after passing through the Rajya Sabha, then are sent to the president for the final sign. As I told you, president is the signing authority. Without his sign, a bill cannot become a law. So he has that veto power. When a bill comes for the signing of the president for that bill to become a law, he has the power to refuse or give assent of bill other than money bill. We are not talking about the money bill. We are talking about the ordinary law bills, so which are passed by the parliament. If those laws are not in relation to the proper structure of the constitution, and president feels that there should be some required changes in the that particular bill, he refuses to sign those bills and give assent, and does not give assent to bills. He sends those bills back to the parliament. However, there is no mention in the constitution about the time limit. Okay, then again parliament reconsider it. They again send it back, making few changes to the president. But it is up to the president. He keeps that bill with him for a 1 month, 2 month, or there is no time limit. If he wants, he will. If he want, he will not forward or send back that particular bill. That is how it's written. However, there is no mention in the constitution. In constitution, there is no mention of the time limit within which the president must send the bill back to reconsideration. So it is up to the president when he will send the bill back for reconsideration to parliament. Okay, so this is also one of the discriminatory power where independently president acts, and this is a power of the president. And the last and the important also role of president is in choosing the prime minister. In choosing of the prime minister, the role of president is very important. But if in a parliamentary system, a leader who has support of the majority, any leader who has won the election, and his party has also won the maximum seats, that is the half seats of the total number of seats in the Lok Sabha, and they have the support of the majority in Lok Sabha, would be appointed as a PM. So simply he will be appointed as a PM through the president. There will here discriminatory power of the president will not come into play, because there is no confusion at all, as the leader who has the support of the majority in Lok Sabha is appointed as the PM. It is just the formal duty of the president to appoint him as the PM. But the problem and the confusion comes here when there is no single party who gains the majority of the seats. That is, no party gets the half of the total seats of the in the Lok Sabha in the general election. So what is done? I shall read this from your NCERT book. So this topic is this power, this discriminatory power of president is concept is clear to you. But imagine a situation. This I will do. But imagine a situation when after an election no leader has clear. But after an election of general election of Lok Sabha, there is no clear majority in the Lok Sabha. Okay, then what will be the situation? What will be the role and power of the president here? I will read from your NCERT book. It's written here. President's role in choosing the prime minister. What's his role? After 1997, if we say, party politics in India became more competitive, because before 1977 only one party was in power, that was Congress. It has a lot of influence around our country. But after 1977 the competition started, and we saw a lot of changes in the Indian politics have been instances when no party had clear majority in Lok Sabha. What does yes, they have written, when after 1977 party politics in India became more competitive, when the lot of competition started, there have been many instances, many situations have come when the party had clear majority, had when no party had clear majority in the Lok Sabha. That they are saying that no clear majority means half of the seats, which I was explaining you. What does the president do in such a situation? If any party has a clear majority, that is half seats they have achieved in the election out of the total number of seats in the Lok Sabha, in that easily they are able to elect the prime minister. But once there is no we can say majority, clear majority in the Lok Sabha, in that case no political party or coalition secured majority in the elections held in March 1990. So with this example they are trying to explain you, in the election of 1998 no party and no coalition or we can say alliance were able to gain the majority in the election. So the BJP and its allies secured. So BJP and its allies, they were having a coalition, they were able to achieve 251 seats in the Lok Sabha, but still they were short of 21 seats to gain majority. So what does happen here? the President Narayan adopted an elaborate procedure. He followed a procedure. This President Narayan, he asked the leaders of the alliance. He asked all the leaders of the alliance who had formed BJP, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, to furnish document in support of his claim to concerned political parties. In this, he advised Atal Bihari Vajpayee to secure a vote of confidence within 10 days to being sworn in. In this, Atal Bihari Vajpayee secured a vote of confidence in this process to become the Prime Minister of our country. So this, we are reading that President has different role. We change in situation and time. President has different roles. Okay, so this with this we come to the end of this particular topic. In the next video we shall be reading about the Prime Minister, who is an important part of Council of Minister and also of executive. So we will be doing this in the next video. Till then, thank you.